how's it going, everybody? This is Kevin, and this is Gaming with Madness. Today we're going to be playing one of my favorite games, Formula D. Formula D is a 2 to 10 person racing pressure luck dice game where players take turns moving their cars around the track trying to complete laps as fast as possible. Basically, you determine starting order by the number of players and rolling this standard D20. The higher position gets the better starting position. At the first turn, you decide how good of a start you get by rolling the D20. If you get perfect 20, you get a really good start. You start out in a higher gear. If you get a 1, you start out in a bad gear. You spin out a little bit. Every turn, determining based on what gear you're in, you will roll the special dice. So if you're in first gear, you roll the first gear die, second gear die, third gear, and so on. Each die has a different minimum and maximum you can roll. You can roll the higher gear you're in, the more you're going to get. However, you do have to stop a certain number of times on each of the different curves. So on these tighter curves, you have to stop a total of 3 times, while these lighter curves, you have to stop 1 time. So if you miss the curve, you have to take damage to your car. If you bump into other players, you take damage to your car. If your car gets 2 damage in any one of the 6 different areas, you will crash and be out of the race. So managing what gear you're in, when you have to stop, and what position you are in relative to other players is the most important part of the game. On your turn, let's say you're starting in 3rd gear because you got a good start. You'd roll the dice, got a 7, so I would move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I have stopped once in this curve, so I would be good to gun it to speed up and go into the next curve. When you are on a curve, you have a limited option of where you can move, indicated by these arrows here. When you're on space like this, for example, you can go forward or immediately to your right. When you're on a curve that just has a straight arrow, you can only go to that immediate next space, limiting your options. If, for example, a car is already in that space and you would have to move into that space, you have to brake, which would of course damage your brakes, slow you down, and potentially crash. On the second, third, and following rounds, the order of play is determined by who is in first, with any ties in position going to the inside lane. Again, you would all roll your dice. The red car would go first. He'd probably want to be up in a higher gear. Roll, he would get a 10, and he would move 10 spaces forward. At any point in the game, if you end up next to another car, you have to roll to see if you crash. Obviously, you want a higher number. 1 is you crash. Anything else, you don't. If you crash, you leave a little bit of a debris marker that other players have to navigate around or potentially damage their car. Once all players have completed their moves, the next round of play begins, and whoever is in first rolls first and keeps going. Once you are in the tunnel here, which is marked by these darker tiles, you can only move forward. You cannot change lanes, whereas you're able to change lanes normally on the lighter tiles. To help with math and make the game flow a little bit faster, they put nice little numbers here on all of the turns and straightaways, indicating how many spaces you have from the start of a straightaway to the end of the straightaway. In addition, the shortest possible route through the curve and the longest possible route. This allows turns to play a little bit faster. You don't have to sit there mathing it out every time. A typical game is about 2 laps, with the pit option being there to refresh your car if you've taken any damage. However, slowing down and going into the pit does potentially lower your position. There's a bunch of different game modes involving different racers. There's like standard racers who have the same stats across all of them. You can play with specialized racers who have unique abilities and unique stats. There's also weather conditions that you can roll to the start of the game if you want to potentially make the race more dangerous or safer. There's also, in the default box, there's actually a second map with its own unique rules and other setup, and the expansions come with their own, usually 2 to 3 other maps as well, plus perhaps racers and other things. Altogether, the game takes anywhere from about 45 to 90 minutes depending upon how fast you guys go. There's time attack modes, there's play modes for everyone controlling multiple cars. All in all, you're going to get so much playtime out of a game like this. It's ridiculous. I think I've played about 50 or 60 games out of just this base box and not gotten bored with it yet. So the game ends on the final lap, whatever lap number you set at the beginning. The game ends as soon as a player finishes the final lap, as in crossing this finish line here. When they do so, every other player gets a chance to finish that round. And if, for example, multiple players cross the finish line in that same round, whoever moved farthest past the finish line would win. You were going faster, and you got to the finish line first. So the person in first doesn't always necessarily have the advantage. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.